I want to do this for the rest of my life. I love it, and I think the only way of doing that is by pushing into what the biggest games are. But that doesn't mean that art's going anywhere. Don't you worry.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Next Level Finance podcast. Today we've got a special guest called Dominic Lawrence from Loaded Crisis, a big YouTuber. I call him Prince of the gaming world in YouTube. Dominic, thank you. Come in. And we're going to have a lot of fun. He's going to share his journey. Watch this podcast if you want to learn about YouTube and gaming, because this will be a game changer for you, literally. Dominic, thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. And I've been trying to get you for a little while now because you've got such a unique journey from the entrepreneur perspective, and we love sharing this. I hope you're ready for all the fun, right?
I'm ready.
I absolutely love it. So I wanted to start with, obviously, to explain to the audience what you do, and because many people may not know you or may have seen your stuff and not know the man behind the magic. You run a YouTube channel, quite a popular one.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, just got 250,000 subscribers. We'll get on to some of the successes later. But uniquely, you're playing games, right, on YouTube, and you're learning the tricks of the games and sharing them with the audience. Is that right?
Yeah, I sort of began that at the beginning of sort of showing people how to do things that they may not know how to. And then I sort of moved a lot into the news space, so promoting all the new cool stuff that's going to be coming out with the game, and that kind of began the growth really, even higher, which is,
Wow, and I'm just amazed by how many subscribers you've got to. It's amazing, and we'll get into detail on that. What I wanted to talk to you first, we do a bit of a layout to go through to understand Dominic, because you're obviously the ultimate driver, the entrepreneur behind the magic, right? You've obviously had some personal challenges, right? And we want to delve into this because people don't realise being an entrepreneur is challenging. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I wanted to talk about is mental health. And this is probably still not, it's got better, but it's still not that well understood.
Yeah. Explain
to us what led to the mental health challenges that you had being a young entrepreneur. And enjoying the nightlife, as we speak.
No. I think for me it was like I didn't realise, starting a YouTube channel. It started as like the hobby for me. So I think I didn't realise that this was ever really going to be my path at that time. That I was going to go down. So I think really as I got older, the stresses of realising how much there is behind running a business, and all those little bits that run sort of can really pull a lot of stress on you, and the worrying about the next day and worrying about what's happening next. And I think that used to play on my mind quite a lot for many years, and it sort of developed into quite bad anxieties and depression. And I think there was some real sort of like dark times, but I think working hard and sort of listening and understanding has been one of the biggest things that's helped me get through it. So, yeah.
You've obviously had some mental health challenges, which has been quite big, and it's been a learning curve. And it seems like you've dealt with those because you're still a young entrepreneur. You're still learning so much, but it's the modern day pressure, I guess, because people don't realise when you're well known by many people, even whether it's online or not online, in person, either way, there's a lot of pressure, isn't there? Did you find that?
Yeah, I definitely feel like sort of when, I guess, because I don't show my face and a lot about me on the channel, it's quite hard to, it's quite, when you sort of, because people don't, I guess, understand you as much, I think you can get a lot of people that would just say some spiteful things or something like that. That can happen within the social world, which they may not really maybe feel that way if they knew the actual you. And I think that's one of the biggest things that with all types of social media, I think it can happen. And there's still a lot, I think there's a long way to go with social media still to grow in ways to change it, to stop you know, that side of things that can impact other people's mental health in a way that hopefully in the future can be more positive rather than a negative side of it, which I think it can have.
I think you've unpacked quite an important part, which people don't think about, is the online trolls.
Yeah.
They do impact you because, especially until you sort of develop a mechanism to deal with them.
Yeah.
And I think that's the maturity and evolution as your journey goes, that you have to develop it, not take what they say.
Yeah, yeah.
As most time they don't even know what they're saying. They're just saying
yeah.
it just to make a point,
Yeah.
which isn't relevant half the time.
Yeah. And yeah, I think sometimes, you know, people don't realize what they're saying sometimes. And so I won't, if I read something, I won't always take it to heart because I know it's just the world of social media. And, you know, you get the more you grow, no matter how loved you are by people, there's always going to be. And that's definitely one of the things, if you're someone who wants to look into becoming a YouTuber or an influencer, you have to prepare for that side because it can be quite intense on depending on what situation is going on, and you know, whatever content you're creating, there's always the downsides that you just have to make sure you prepare for, and you know it's going to be a bit of a journey.
I love that, and I think unpacks it to many entrepreneurs who are in different parts of the journey, who want to engage with social media. They're a bit worried about their income. It's developing mechanisms and also understanding that the trolling should not affect you as an individual trying to be strong and have that mental toughness, which I know it's easier said than done, because everyone gets offended, right? But you have to have that if you're an online personality, right? Okay, it can make a huge difference. I wanted to also talk about, you mentioned, is you enjoyed the bit of the nightlife, right?
Yeah.
Because obviously you're young, you started getting a bit of money from being on online YouTube, doing something that you liked. How did you overcome enjoying the nightlife and enjoying a bit of a drink, as you mentioned?
Yeah.
How did you manage to deal with that?
I think so. I think what I realised that was sort of adding to my mental stresses and depressions and anxieties was doing, you know, this party life so often. You know, it seemed so cool when I was 18, 19, having fun with friends and stuff, and it felt like the dream at the point. But then what I realised, it was really starting to take down, I'd say, a lot of the hard work I was putting in, because I may slack because you may be feeling a bit rough from it, and you know, and you would just miss out on so many really cool opportunities that I'd wake up the next morning and be like, oh well, I'll get the next one. But when I sort of really pulled back on the party life, drinking, focusing a little bit more on health, it's been the best thing I've ever done, just because I've seen my channel grow. I've seen, you know, I'm just so much more motivated for everything. I'm on top of things a lot more, and my health is best it's been probably in years. So it's one of the nicest things, sort of learning that. And it's not an easy thing, I think, to get over, because you can get really stuck in some tough places sometimes. But for me personally, cutting down on that and limiting it has been perfect. Yeah.
I want to just delve a bit more, if you don't mind, into that, because a lot of entrepreneurs, we're watching that and they have different challenges, and then will relate to what you're having, because that is more common than you think. What did you put in place to stop you drinking excessively or drinking a lot, to sort of get your escape? What did you do to stop that and make this big change, because you saw the impacts of it?
Yeah, I think I do listen to, this is where social media is quite good at the same time, because I did listen to a lot of others online that were talking about the impacts of what life can be like if you sort of lead, I guess, a bit more of a healthier lifestyle. And, you know, that side of things for me really was a big motivation. But I think just listening to family and friends around you, and you know, and just sort of realizing and listening to people is such an important thing. I think I used to block a lot of things out, which were probably quite important bits of information. And since I've sort of made those changes, I think that was definitely the best move for me, and I'm very happy for it. So
yeah, but it takes a lot of guts and being courage, because you're sort of going against your peer group, aren't you? Because you sort of have to distance yourself. Have you found that? Because you've had to, obviously, to do that change, you have to literally get rid of people who are pushing you down the bit that's not helping.
Yeah.
How have you found that change?
I mean, luckily for me, I've got a great group of friends, even if they
Fantastic.
might still enjoy the party night. I mean, I still will enjoy friends' birthdays and events or things like that. But I think sort of you do notice there might be a few people that might be like, where have you gone? Like, what's going on? Like, why are you not coming out as much, or why are you not? And you know, I think that's when you realise who maybe were a little bit more of your like true friends that want to stick around you when you know you maybe you know whether they're with you if you're there just with you to have fun at parties or whether they're actually with you because they love you you know type thing. So
I think you put a lot of wisdom to a lot of entrepreneurs that confidence in yourself and what's right for you may not be what other people want it to be,
yeah,
but you have to make that distinction, and that takes a lot of courage.
yeah,
So well done. No, that's fantastic and great insight. Thank you for that. I wanted to also ask is that you mentioned, because I've known you for a few years, about physical fitness.
yeah.
You know, I'll be honest, I've been struggling with this last few months. How did you, because you know, how did you make that a part of your journey? Because I go on about this as well, because if you're physically in good
Yeah.
health, it obviously affects your mental and your ability to be an entrepreneur and whatever you do.
Yeah.
So how did you put that part of the jigsaw into your routine?
So I think as I've mentioned to you before, I've been very up and down
Yeah.
in sort of in the fitness space. So I've gained weight, lost weight, gone too skinny, got too big. You know, it's happened to me so much, and like I think more of as of recent change since I've cut back on the party life, I've focused a little bit more on going to the gym, losing weight, getting a little bit because I think it is very something I've learned is the fitter I'm getting, the better my mental space has been. And I think it's very, very, even if you're just doing, I think, the tiniest bit of exercise per day, I think that can really just change your entire day. If you're having a terrible day and you just need to clear your mind for a bit, just going out for a simple walk, I think sometimes, even for me, I've felt like has really sort of just cleared my mind, and then I've come back and done probably better work than I would have if I hadn't have gone out. So I think that's just very important, whether you're someone that stays down the gym for the entire day or whether you're someone that just goes out for 20 minutes. You know, I just think those little changes for me really put me in a positive mindset. So yeah,
No, I think that's really important, and I think a lot of the listeners and the viewers across social media that watch that will be inspired by that, because you have to change your mindset and change your routines
yeah,
because it's sacrifices, right?
yeah,
So I think that's huge. I wanted to ask you, because this is quite a big bit, because obviously you're still a young entrepreneur in your mid-20s, if I could say, but you started a number of years back. How did you convince your parents that you were going to be an entrepreneur, not employee? What did you do? Because I think a lot of entrepreneurs who are probably in a similar boat to yourself will want to know, because if you don't have your parents on side, it's pain, isn't it?
yeah.
How did you do that?
Yeah, so it wasn't easy, and I still don't think it always is.
Yeah.
You know, I think your parents always sort of worry about you no matter what age you are. But I think obviously when you're young and they want you to have a great career path, it's very hard if one day you wake up and say, "Oh, hi, mum, I'm gonna become a YouTuber." You know, it's not. You know, especially when I think the first time I ever said it to her was, you know, it's got to be 12 more plus years ago, you know, when
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think I first sort of got in the YouTube space when I was 10. So it's been a long, long time. And yeah, I think being able to sort of change their minds on it, I think my dad was always very sort of behind it because he's kind of dabbled more in the entrepreneur side of
Yeah, yeah,
things
yeah.
in life, so he was very interested in it. My mum, it took a little bit of more time to sort of sit her down, show her what I'm doing, you know, the potential it has, whether you know earnings or you know it's one of the hardest things to do, to you know, because I completely understand it. You know, you want your child to do the best, have the best life possible. So there's no hate or upset from me towards them for some of the things that we had to go through and talks we had to go through. But I think as long as you can prove to them that it's going to be something that you can keep on building and keep on growing, and you've got so much motivation for it, then I think they should support you if the figures show that.
I think you mentioned a huge point there, because I know I've had to have because we obviously you do support you around the accounts and tax and things. And I think one of the key things is that relationship, because you have to then convey what is happening financially to your parents on a conference call.
Yeah.
I've had those,
Yeah.
and to explain to them, because they are your parents, right? They
Yeah.
want the best for you. Listen, I've got into the 40s. My mum still says to me, "Are you still doing the right thing?"
Yeah.
Yeah, because she's like employee, and I'm like, when's that going to change?
Yeah.
Never.
No.
So I think that's the context, because people don't realize there is a lot of different things. 'Cause being an entrepreneur, you're taking a risk. That's what part of
Yeah.
entrepreneurship is, where yes, there is a list to be an employee, but it's much lower, because you go to the job
Yeah.
and they pay you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas your entrepreneur, you may not get paid, and you
Yeah.
probably get paid last if
Yeah.
you've got staff and things. So yeah, no, there's a lot of fun on that. I guess I wanted to ask you about, how did you had obviously a major life event like a lot of people have. For you, it's when your parents splitting up.
Yeah.
I think you said mentioned at age 8.
Yeah.
And obviously being able to speak to both your parents.
Yeah.
How did that affect you? Because I think there's such a huge impact. How did you deal with that, and over time, what's happened, and how have you done things to be able to try to make sure it's not as a big issue? For many, it can be quite a life-changing event to not a good point. So how have you made it work, and what have you done to deal with that?
So funny enough, it didn't impact me so much when I was younger, because I was so young. I kind of, I was very upset at the time, but I don't think I understood it properly. And so then when it turned into, oh, it's fine, Dom, because you're going to get 2 birthdays, or that's all the stuff you look back to then, and I think as I got older, I sort of understood more, instead of it affecting me. My parents have said to me before, I feel bad the way that these things have turned out. But to me, I've seen it more how it affected them, sort of wanting to spend as much time as they can with me and my sister, and sort of wanting to make sure they did the best job. And I can happily sit here and say they did. I've always been there for me for everything. So I'm very happy about that. But it was sad seeing them go through some lonely times and some things like that. But I've definitely think they're both come out of it great as well. And I can happily sit here and say we seem to be quite a happy family. So I think that's what you want, isn't it? Health for family. And
I think you've hit the nail on the head. And also, I think where you've been very humble, because I've obviously got a bit more insight in it, is how you've helped your parents, especially your dad. So I think these are the important things that show character of an individual, for me anyway. And I think you've done quite really well, because it's not an easy experience. So I think you've done fantastic on that. We're going to talk on to our fun business challenges. So he's giving a bit of insight around Dominic, and you sort of understand what his environment and what he's overcome. What is the biggest challenge you've had? I think money management was one of them. And we were talking about tax and cash flow. And everyone's like, oh my God, does he talk about tax? Yeah. But yeah, it's quite important, isn't it?
Yeah.
So how did you first find those as big issues? And then we'll get about how you've tried to deal with them.
I think obviously in the space that I do, what I work in is like, it's a lot of kids' dreams when they grow up, games, making money from playing games. Like, wow, is that even possible? And I think because you do kind of work in your own time, when I was still quite young, I saw it as more of a, like, oh, I can just go and do what I want type thing, and not think too much about the future. So I think getting sort of money at a younger age, I wouldn't always say is the best thing for you. I think it's always follow your dreams and go for it, but make sure that you've got great people around you to help you manage it properly. And I did, but I obviously still had a little bit of maybe the rebel in me when I was a little bit younger and wanted to go and enjoy myself. So that kind of money side of things, luckily we've made improvements, but definitely that was one of the biggest struggles of how to manage it properly and how much you should be spending. And but as for a tax side of things, It was great to meet Zee because that saved me really because I had no clue coming out of school that tax even existed. And then as soon as I met Zee, it definitely put me onto the real world.
Thank you, really humbling. I think also it's planning, isn't it, and getting that advice. Whatever you do, whoever
Yeah.
your people are who are advising you, is just trying to make sure you can have that relationship, you have the conversation, and you trust that advice that it's in your benefit. I want to talk on to because you're sort of diversified as well, and you started a app business,
Yeah.
which obviously had a mixed impact. I guess what I want to know is what did you learn as a positive aspect
Yeah.
from it, first of all? So a bit about that, because running an app business is totally different, isn't it? It's not like what
Yeah.
you're doing right now.
Yeah.
So how, because explain a bit what you were doing with the app business for the audience.
So pretty much we came up with an idea to it was very similar to like Uber, but it was an idea of helping truck drivers, van drivers sort of get more work in their local area. So you know, I used to know a lot of people in that sort of industry. So I would speak to them all the time and they'd be like, this is the perfect thing. And I just remember thinking about it and just being like, this just sounds like a great idea. And it was the hardest thing to sort out at the time because, you know, it's you know, starting an app is not an easy thing, is it? It's one of those, I know you've dabbled in certain apps and it's the journey behind I do miss the sort of times I had with it because it was great working with the developers and things, but I think that's the main sort of aspect of it.
I think also it's the time investment and the
Yeah.
money investment that you have to do, and also trying to get the relevant, we call stakeholders, like the drivers,
Yeah.
the actual logistic businesses, because you're acting like the middle person between
Yeah.
the two. And I think that was probably a lot harder to communicate and get that engagement
Yeah.
than you probably thought initially, right?
Yeah, and you know, it was a lot of advertising costs, so you're spending quite a lot to sort of try and get drivers in, and the aim was to try and get like it more of a word of mouth thing because I know that's so huge between drivers. But it just unfortunately, just because the costs were too high for me at this point, I was so grateful to the YouTube channel to allow me to start that journey because that kind of gave it the booster of having the income there to start it up. But unfortunately, we didn't just about have the time to make it. But I've seen you know, I've seen many people go down a similar road. Even I'm a big fan of Dragon's Den.
Go on.
And I've seen many sort of people on Dragon's Den come on with similar ideas, not to do with trucks and vans, but kind of like an Uber for all different types of products. And they seem to have sort of stopped at that one point of we don't have the advertising costs to get this out to enough people. And I think if someone can complete the challenge of being able to get enough workers on the app and enough customers, then I'd love to meet them.
I think that's the big challenge. I think you put in a nutshell, because a lot of people have apps which are fantastic if you can actually think to end-to-end process, because ultimately, in your case, you would need the logistic businesses advertising the jobs and then the drivers on there to engage to go and get the jobs. Yeah, and I think that sounds easier than it is, because you need to know where they hang out, how you're going to communicate, what the budget's going to be, how much is the recurring people going to be. It is a lot. It's possible, but it's not easy, and that's probably why it's not been done previously.
Yeah, and I think I'm sure there may be some out there maybe now. I don't know. I haven't done my research. I probably should have to see how it's, which would be upsetting. But unfortunately, I think with the sort of the certain app that I was doing, I think you have to have a huge amount of income behind you to get that word of mouth out there and start getting people talking about it, because you have to build people's trust as well.
Of course.
And you know, why are they going to trust to use me? You know, they has to be a reason, and you know, that I would have loved that to have happened, but it was a great journey, so I'm not upset.
But you've learned about how apps work, because that could be something that's transferable now to another journey that you do, because technology is becoming so important, and we'll touch on it later,
Yeah.
why it's so important. Sorry to interrupt the podcast. Hope you're getting a huge amount of value from this. Just going to be quick, 2 seconds. First of all, to let you know, in the comments below, we have got links to free business guides that can help you on your entrepreneur journey. They include exclusive footage from Sky TV episodes that I've done, and a whole load of other content in there, whether you're a growing business, property investor, property developer, or if you want to love the fun of SaaS pensions. Please do look at those, and if you still want more help, get in touch. The contact details are below. What I wanted to look at is your successes, because when I say to people, right, getting the amount of subscribers this gentleman has got on YouTube is not easy, over 250,000, and you've had, I think you said 80 million views on your YouTube channel. I have to say that again, 80 million. That is mind-blowing, because people don't realize YouTube is not as easy as people make out, because it's competitive. I wanted to touch, right, just for the audience, explain the key aspects of your target audience and why do they go onto your YouTube channel and view your content.
So I think the reason that they choose to come to me is because one of my main sort of, I would say, if I could even use the word USP about my channel, is that I will be 100% always the first person to get something out. I will, I spend, as soon as I have all notifications on for everything, a little bit like a news reporter, I guess.
Got it.
And so as soon as something pops up, no matter what time of the day, whether I'm asleep, somehow I'll find a way to get up and edit and get it out there. So I think that aspect, I think what I've seen a lot of people like is they always sound very fast to get the news out to them as the first person. And I think that's one of the things I always want to try and stand by, because I think, there's great creators out there that they take a little bit longer to get it out, and they'll do some great edits, and that's something that I would like to look forward to sort of doing with different type of content, like great edits in videos people love. But I think one of the things I take pride in is the fact that I will get something out to my subscribers as fast as I possibly can, and making sure it's the best quality. So.
Do you know what? That's quite similar in the finance world as well. We have something called the budget, and that is chaos, because you don't always know what the chancellor actually means, because they don't give the detail. They just say one line, we see what you see, right? And then you have to, what does that mean? Can I actually give actionable advice? That's what you're doing. You're giving advice to your audience who love, in your case, what is it, the famous game Ark? You were saying that's the one that made your name, and you've not now diversified into Power World and Hell Driver 2. I've not played any of those games, I'll be honest with you. So I know I used to love my games back in the day, more Football Management. How do you find the diversification? Because you've gone from one game and being like a master of it, and where your audience, how have you now, for the people watching, now you diversified into 2 other games? How's that helped your audience, and how has it helped retain the audience but get new audience? I guess that's my question.
Yeah, so I think, the last 8 years I've been creating art content, and I still have the same passion and love that I have for the game that I have done since I was, I started it. There has been ups and downs, I have to be honest. I think a lot of any of my subscribers that watch this will know the reasons behind that. I think I sort of really, this year was the year that I saw a lot of, so the genre of game that I create for is for survival games, and certain years in the gaming industry there's certain genres that can really take flight. There's been ones called battle royale modes, which you must have heard of Fortnite.
I haven't heard of it, but I'm sure probably
it's one of the biggest games that I never
getting educated right now.
I never managed to actually get onto Fortnite in its prime when it was, but I decided that this year, as survival games seems to be really growing and taking off, I was like, if I ever want to see myself sort of go, take my channel to the next step, I'm going to really have to diversify the content, moving into new games, and whatever the big trends are, I'm going to have to be there and on top of it. And
Wow.
yeah, it's been a weird, it's been tough, it's been hard because you know you're completely moving into a new audience, and I've never done that before, but I'm enjoying it. It's great to meet new subscribers along the way. I've seen that coming in a lot faster, which is
Wow.
lovely. But obviously, there are a few people that will be like, "Who are you, and why are you in this space?" But you know, you've got to see if you can get them to love you as well, I guess.
Have you found it for your initial or existing subscribers? Have you lost some because you've gone into a different game? Have you found that, or has it been overall really positive? Because it looks like that from the numbers.
Yeah, so there has been some that haven't been happy, in the sense of they've been like, this was my go-to place for just this game, which was Just Ark at the time. And I think I just had to be really honest with them and say, like, that's still going to be here. Nothing's going to change because I still love it and I still always create it. And if I didn't, I'd be honest and say I don't enjoy it. So some people did decide to unsubscribe, but luckily the majority of my channel, they were like on board of, you know, they see what my vision is, and I want to, you know, I want to do this for the rest of my life. I love it, and
Wow. Wow.
I think the only way of doing that is by pushing into what the biggest games are. But that doesn't mean that Ark's going anywhere. Don't you worry.
I guess what I wanted to also look at is I love the numbers behind it, as you know, right? So, how do you make money? And I think that's the question because a lot of people don't understand, how does YouTube make money,
Yeah.
right? I guess speaking to you, there's two key revenue drivers, isn't there? One is the advertising and one is the sponsorship.
Yeah.
What's the split between the two of your income? You don't have to tell your income, but the
Yeah, I mean,
percentage split.
so it's different for certain creators because for
Yeah.
me, the stage that I'm in right now, I would say it's sort of 65% YouTube advertising revenue,
Yeah.
and probably like 35 sponsorships. It can vary on certain months, but what I do seem to find is some of the big creators out there, the biggest of the big, them a lot of their main income will actually start to come through sponsorships, which
Wow.
is something I'm looking forward to, taking on more opportunities, which I have done already. And I'm working with quite a nice company that are helping me lead sort of new sponsorships. But one side of things on YouTube is they've just implemented a new feature
Yeah.
available to certain YouTubers called Brand Connect,
Right.
which is
Wow.
yeah, something to check out. If you know, I think there might be some requirements on what certain sides of the YouTube channel and how many views. I think if you want to become a YouTube partner, there's requirements, and
Yeah.
but for Brand Connect, they're sort of you can set how much you sort of charge for certain things and how. And it will like put you in what your niche is. So mine's gaming, and then you sort of can wait for offers in that people that want to work with you. So it's really exciting new feature. I can't wait to sort of get on top of, and hopefully that can increase revenue for the year.
Wow. Okay. So got three revenue drivers now, but the two majority. So YouTube advertising is where advertisers come to you and say, "Can we advertise on your channel?" And you obviously get a cut. How many people view it?
Yeah.
That's number one. So it's driven by how many subscribers and viewers you've got. And number two is sponsorship. Is that sponsorship by the game or what type? How does that sponsorship work?
So a lot of the time for me at this point, it's not actually the game that I create content for. So they will, certain big companies that will sponsor you to play their game. But for me, it's like a lot of sort of similar games. So like I've recently been in touch with Digimon, which is kind of similar to like a Pokemon type of
Yeah.
game, and they've got in contact because Power World is very similar. So doing
Yeah.
new games is, so they'll be like, you know, can you show off our game for us? A lot of the time it's either a 60-second integration into your video,
Yeah.
or they'll want a long form video where they want you to play a whole sort of, and they vary in views. So you sort of talk to them through different prices depending on how many views your video is going to get. I think 60-second integrations is very popular
Yeah.
for different brands to get in contact with. So get you in contact with you with.
Can they skip? Can someone skip, or can they? Do they have to watch the whole minute?
They have to watch it because you will sign contracts with these brands, and one of the things that they say is please don't put any adverts or anything that can interrupt it for when you're watching. So someone can decide to skip your video to pass it, of course, 100%. But you know, that's the risk, I guess, of when you're working with different creators. And I mean, yeah, I think I've shown so far that I've helped out quite a few brands through my network. So yeah.
Yeah, it's just looking how you drive the revenue and still enjoy what you do, right? It's getting that balance.
Yeah.
So I think you're getting a good balance, it sounds like. I guess what I want to do, understand, is what your approach is. And every entrepreneur that I speak to, especially if they go onto the Next Level Finance podcast, they have a different approach. I guess from your approach, from talking to you, it sounds like you enjoyed the game. It was a hobby. Is that how it started for you, and is that what your approach has been from it initially, especially for many years?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it definitely started as just a hobby with friends, and you know, as I said, I've been playing games since I was like 3 years old, literally thrown in front of a computer, and I think just from there it was like I used to watch a lot of YouTubers that were up and coming then, and now they're kind of more old school types of YouTubers, but they still make content. And I just said I wanted to do this. You know, I've always loved presenting things. I've always like never knew what way I wanted to go, and I just think I was like, this seems like the dream job for me, like creating gaming content. And that's, I think that for me, was just, it started as a hobby, and somehow just from having fun, it turned into a job for me. So
Wow. I think also, I think it's, you sort of evolved now. You look at the trends and before you invest time in things. And I think that's what's led you to the two other games. Have you found that you have to watch what's happening on the platform more than ever now?
Yeah, I think it's probably one of the most competitive times ever in YouTube that I've noticed. It's you know, what if I'm to move forward with my channel and get in, you know, the dream is to get into the millions one day, which is going to be hard, but it's going to, you do have to sort of follow what the trends are. I never used to do that because I was sort of mainly just focused in ARC, and I realized that I love playing other games as well, right? So it's and if they're even the ones that are trending, you know, why not, Dom? Why not start making content for them because you love them? I think the following trends has been one of the most important things for me this year in 2024, and I look to do it going forward. So.
And that's what's helped you go viral, right? So I guess also you sort of looked at diversifying, and you were talking about TikTok. Is that something that's on the cards? You were mentioning TikTok's changed how they work with content creators. Is that right?
Yeah. So it was the thing with TikTok is they've always no hate towards TikTok, but at the beginning they were very sort of. They had a lot. They used to pay their creators a lot lower than YouTube, and it was kind of where creators were more sort of making their money on TikTok through sponsorship. So that was, I would say, on TikTok. You know, for me on YouTube it's 35%, but for TikTok creators it's 90% of their revenue through sponsorship. So they recently started a new partner program where videos that are a minute longer can start gaining a lot more. So like CPM, how much you earn per 1,000 views, has gone up a lot. And so a lot of the top creators on TikTok are now starting to make, not onto the YouTube level yet, but it's starting to get there. And I think with more sort of paid advertisements on TikTok, it will grow. So I think, why not shift over?
I think you've got to diversify. Being on one platform, you've got a risk, haven't you, of the business. Something happens on the platform, and millions of things can. Your income's gone, everything's gone. So diversifying, we're on all platforms. I think you have to be, in my opinion. What I wanted to ask is about impacts to your business, different impacts. I'm talking about technology, and you gave a great insight, I think you will do, for technology. How have you embraced technology?
Just similar to like we talked about. I was, you know, as I said, I've been gaming since the age of 3, and that was through my granddad, which he was an IT teacher, and he sort of just put me in front of a computer and would teach me even the simple things like just how to use Word as a tiny little kid, and I would, and that kind of was the biggest sort of thing for me, because I didn't realize that it just all came natural to me growing up, in the sense of, because I didn't realize that it was actually kind of a skill, you know, because my granddad put me into it for so long.
Yeah.
As I got older, I realized, oh wow, I'm quite good at this, because he was just the biggest impact on me.
Wow.
And I don't think if it wasn't for him, I don't think I would be where I am. So
Wow.
I owe a lot to him.
So embracing technology is down to your environment and how your granddad got you involved at such a young age. Amazing, amazing. Watch that. That's huge value for people. I always ask people, did Brexit impact your business at all? And I think you had a different view on it.
Yeah, no, it hasn't really affected me, because my income comes through like the US and Canada. So when it could impact certain other creators depending on what network you're with. So you may sign with a network when, you know, that might want to sort of, they like what you do, and depending on where they're based, it you know, it could have different impacts. I have had UK based networks that want to work with me, and I'm always open to, you know, better deals if anyone's watching.
Yeah, we'll put Dominic's details below, and so you can contact him, and also check out his YouTube channel, which is Loaded Crisis, worth looking at. I guess, I think you were saying that you're sort of indifferent about Brexit, because you're just watching out what the longer term impacts are to the UK.
Yeah, I think that's the best. I couldn't really put that better, because, you know, it is one of those things that, getting older, it has been that realization that I do have to really check about what's going on in the world, because I think it's really, really, really important, especially if you're running a business. You have to stay on top of everything, and that's been more learning curves.
Yeah, absolutely. It's known because we're such a global country now, that everything that happens in the globe affects us. I always ask, I know you haven't got involved yet, but property world, thinking about property in the future, you were talking about a little bit about it.
Yeah, so I have, you know, even when I started earning from YouTube, it was one of the first things on my mind that I would, you know, really important to get on the property ladder as such. And I think it's very, very hard from what I've seen in my generation to do so. And, you know, I see a lot of people having to work a lot of hours and to get to that stage. So it's been a very hard thing for me to know when the right time is the right time. But it's definitely something that's very, very high up on the cards for me, and I hope to keep success going so I can achieve that.
Yeah, I think it's obviously thinking about it ahead is, first of all, obviously getting your income to a point that you're happy with it, and some consistency, and you've got a bit of money built up in savings, the business is protected, and then maybe putting a deposit if you're buying your own main house, something that you can afford, and your income can cover the mortgage to start with. And then if you do take the step even further than that, is in the investment world, making sure you structure it and getting good advice. That can make a huge difference. And then you've got diversified your income, so you're not just relying on your business, YouTube, you've got another business, property. And I always say, think about pensions as well, because they're a gold mine if you use them properly. I guess, obviously, as most people will know right now, we are in a recession as we're recording this in March 2024. Has it affected your business, the recession?
It hasn't really affected me too much. I think one of the benefits that I have to say of being a YouTuber or a content creator is that you don't always see the negatives too much. It can, if advertisements go down, it can make, especially during COVID, it really affected it. Whereas so I do sort of look to be like, I hope it doesn't affect my advertisement with my YouTube revenue in the future. But as we sit here, March 2024, it's okay at the moment.
I guess the impact that many don't probably think about, and I have this discussion all the time, is the impact on about not in we've been talking about revenue as in income coming in, but how much income you keep.
Yeah.
And the recession tends to affect tax, as you can
Yeah.
see, and we're just sitting post the latest budget, and tax generally in most areas is actually still going up. It's the highest since the Second World War as a percentage.
Crazy.
It's almost like 37 to 40%
Wow.
of GDP, which it hasn't been since the Second World War. So I guess that planning has affected you as an individual, because how you extract money and how you're going to buy property. If you're giving more to the taxman, you have to earn more.
Yeah. And it does start to make you feel like that never-ending cycle of like, oh, I'm work. But I guess in life, one of the things that that I'm with it is you have to just keep working hard every day for the things that you want. And there are sort of certain factors that bring you down a lot, and that may be due to costs going up, so I have noticed that side of things. But I think for me, I'm just in this bubble now of just, with the lifestyle changes I've made, where I just feel like nothing can stop me. I'm just like
Going for
it.
So I love that, Dominic. I think you've given so much value, and we will put Dominic's details below. You can go and check him out, and we'll obviously have the content from this podcast going everywhere, because Dominic will help so many entrepreneurs who are in that field or trying to think about getting in that field. Follow people who have been successful, and Dominic definitely is there, and he's trying to build his success. So Dominic, thank you for coming on the Next Level Finance podcast. Got to enjoy it. This is what makes the difference. This is what entrepreneurs, and I hope you enjoyed watching this.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the podcast. We're doing this to add value to your entrepreneur journey, which is have a quick catch up on this, is that just to remind you, we've got free business guides in the comments below. They got huge value in them for property investors, property developers, SaaS pensions, and if you've got growing trading business as well. After you consume those guides that have got exclusive Sky TV episodes in them, please do get in contact with us. The contact details are there, and we can help shape your entrepreneur journey and unlock financial freedom. Thank you so much.